The room was packed, laughter bouncing off the walls, clinking glasses and casual chatter filling every corner. I had just taken a sip of my drink when she stood up, her smile radiant, and announced it. "We're having a baby." The words hit the room like a burst of fireworks, everyone cheering, hugging, clapping. And me? I froze. My stomach twisted, not with joy, but with a cold, creeping dread. I forced a smile, clapping along, nodding, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. Something about the timing felt off, like a shadow slipping over a sunlit day. I laughed with the rest of the crowd, but my mind was already racing, piecing together fragments I'd tried to ignore. It started small, missed calls that she'd brushed off as busy at work, messages she'd left open too long, phone screens quickly flipped over when I entered the room. And then there were the sudden excuses for nights out or early meetings, the way she laughed a little too sharply at texts she didn't want me to see. I questioned myself first. Maybe I was paranoid, maybe I was reading too much into innocent things. But the gnawing doubt grew louder with every hidden glance and half-truth. One night, months ago, I had noticed her phone buzzing persistently while she was in the shower. Something compelled me. I shouldn't have, but I peeked. There it was, a string of messages from someone I didn't know, flirty, intimate, the kind of words you shouldn't be sending when you've promised someone your life. My hands shook, and I closed the phone, convincing myself I was mistaken, that context mattered. But I remembered every detail, the words, the tone, the careless secrecy. That party was supposed to be a celebration, a night of happy announcements. But as I watched her stand there, glowing and proud, something inside me snapped. The timing, the way she said it, the little glance she gave that friend of hers standing nearby, everything pointed to the truth I didn't want to see, but couldn't ignore any longer. I set down my drink and walked to the center of the room. The laughter dimmed as I approached. Her eyes widened, confusion and pride mixed in a perfect storm. "What are you?" she started, but I cut her off. "The baby," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Isn't mine." The room went silent. The words felt heavy, like stones I was hurling through fragile glass. I saw the color drain from her face, the trembling that had nothing to do with nerves. Whispers started around us, the sudden, suffocating heat of everyone's attention pressing down. She opened her mouth, tried to speak, and I continued, almost unable to stop myself. "I've known for a while. The missed calls, the secret texts, the late nights, everything makes sense now. This isn't my child." I watched as the world she'd built for herself began to unravel in real time. Her hands flew to her face, eyes wet, lips quivering. I felt a strange mixture of relief and guilt, like a wound both opening and closing at the same time. Later, alone in our car, the confrontation replayed in slow motion. She confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. She didn't expect me to know, she said. She didn't want to hurt me. The guilt in her eyes was real, raw, suffocating, but it couldn't erase what had been done. I thought of our life together. Quiet mornings sipping coffee, long walks through the park, the way she'd hum softly while cooking. Every memory now carried a sting, each smile a hidden lie. I thought of the trust one had given her freely, and the betrayal that had crept in, silent and patient, until it shattered everything. For days, I vacillated between anger and heartbreak. I questioned whether I loved her still, or if that love was nothing more than a memory I had been clinging to in desperation. I replayed every conversation, every touch, every laugh, searching for the moment it all went wrong. The turning point came one rainy afternoon. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, silence stretching between us like a chasm. I finally said what I'd been holding back. "I need to know why." Her story poured out in fragments. Loneliness, fear, a moment of weakness she never thought would have consequences so visible. She was remorseful, broken in ways I hadn't imagined, but her words couldn't heal the wound. I listened, torn between empathy and the burning ache of betrayal. I realized then that this wasn't a story with a villain and a hero, but two people caught in the wreckage of their own choices. I had been hurt, Yes, but the human truth, the frailty, the impulse, the mistakes, was undeniable. The days that followed were a blur of reflection. I moved slowly, deliberately, through the motions of daily life, trying to reconcile the love I had once known with the reality before me. I revisited old photos, old messages, and every small memory became a lesson of trust, of boundaries, of self-respect. I made a decision, quietly, without ceremony. We would part ways, not in a storm of anger or public spectacle, but with a measured, painful grace. I told her one evening, voice steady, eyes clear, "We can't continue like this. I need to rebuild myself, and you need to face what you've done." Her tears fell silently, and I didn't turn back. Walking away was the hardest choice I've ever made, but it was also the only path toward healing. Each step was heavy with grief, but also strangely liberating. The realization that I could survive, that life would continue, that I could eventually find a love built on honesty. Months later, I sit alone on my porch, watching the sun set over a quiet street. I think of her, of the baby, of what was lost and what remains. The pain hasn't vanished, but it has softened, like a wound forming a scar. And in that scar, I find strength. I have learned to protect my heart, to value my own worth, and to let go of the ghosts of betrayal. Life moves forward, slow and unrelenting. And though the memory of that night, that party, that announcement, will never leave me entirely, it has shaped me, made me stronger, wiser, and painfully aware of the fragile, beautiful truth of love and trust. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks of me, of the life we could have had. But I no longer dwell on it. I have my peace, my dignity, and the quiet knowledge that I survived something meant to break me. And in that survival, I found a new kind of freedom, the freedom to live honestly, love carefully, and never again let betrayal define me.